the people I want to surround myself with, I want to grow together, right? I want to do awesome stuff with awesome people. And if I'm not growing, then I have to look at my network and to see where that anchor is.
Welcome out. We're here with Adam Berezowski and Becoming Epic. And we're going to talk today about the power of relationships, both with others and with yourself. Adam, we were talking a little bit about your journey over the past few years and how that, facing other people, facing yourself. First of all, let's just talk about how to handle it if maybe you outgrow a relationship. You were telling me a story, but share that story with us.
Yeah. So, there's actually a couple stories, but basically, there's people that come into your life that, that you think that play a significant role in your business or in your personal life. And then over time, as you grow, there's two different ways that you can grow. You can grow together, you grow apart, right? And there's really no in between. And so, one of the things that I've had to do recently is, I had to cut a relationship off because, we worked together. It wasn't, we didn't see eye to eye. Our core values were just definitely not aligned. And I'm a core value person. Like I live by my core values. I have them tattooed on my body. I live by them so much that they just weren't aligned. And it became to a toxic relationship that it was affecting me personally. And I had to just have a hard conversation and just do a hard cutoff. And for as hard as that is, because this person did play a massive role in a lot of in a big, significant portion of my career, it was just better for both of us to be able to grow, and I don't think that people realize that being able to let go of a relationship is going to excel you versus trying to fix a relationship when it's not fixable.
So how do you determine when a relationship is fixable or not, or when it's become toxic, when you've grown too far apart?
Yeah, I think that when two people are willing to grow together, you'll know, right? Versus when you're continuing a relationship and you're not growing, right? It's seeing the things of where you're unhappy with either your body, your mind, your situation, your financial status, your business. I mean, you can go through all the different avenues and just look at some of the cues. Like, are you happy financially with this person? Are you happy in the relationship of what you're giving versus what they're giving? And the value, is it worth it? And I think that that's what I look for is value in others. Like I want to deliver high value to everybody. And, it's kind of like you treat people the way you want to be treated. And when you're not receiving that back, and me being a people pleaser in the past, I'm a giver, right? And givers don't have boundaries and takers don't have boundaries either. So I think that that's the bigger thing that I look for is that the people I want to surround myself with, I want to grow together, right? I want to do awesome stuff with awesome people. And if I'm not growing, then I have to look at my network and to see where that anchor is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think so. How do you identify? There's a difference between a relationship that's maybe grown apart and either a friendship or a business relationship or some other relationship that is toxic, right? So, is that a word that you resonate with? And if so, how do you define that and handle it?
Yes. So I am on a path of healing, right? And when something that is creating chaos in my life, that every time I talk to this person, it's always either a problem with their significant other or a problem with them, a problem with the business. It's always a problem, and it's never a conversation about growth and then what we can do for each other. Then that's where the toxicity comes into play. Again, it's like being able to set those boundaries of conversation with people and like knowing what those conversations look like. Cause sometimes you're like, oh, I just want them to vent. Right. And I just want to be that shoulder to cry on. But then again, if it's an anchor in your life, like that's a toxic relationship, even though it's not like a fighting, arguing relationship, but it is something that is like weighing you down emotionally, physically, because it sucks the life out of you. And, I think I even asked my therapist, because he has a therapist, right? Because all therapists need therapists.
Right.
Because especially me as like a gym owner, it's a very vulnerable business to be in, right? People come here, they're damaged, they want to be better, they're on a path of growth, right?
Right.
I always say if my walls can talk, the conversations and the things that people would hear would be like mind blowing. But it's like, where do we go to release that? Right.
Right.
And that's where it's like, even for me with some members, where it's like, they keep blaming me for their lack of success. I'm like, okay, well, it's kind of like, I'm willing to do whatever I can to have you be successful. But then I think there comes that time when they have to take ownership, and I have to take ownership of my life and know that I'm doing the best that I can if they're not even willing to do the work.
That makes tons of sense. So you mentioned that you're on a path of healing, right? And so along that path, you're really careful about who you bring into your life, right?
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about the past few years for you in this path of healing.
Yeah. So the last few years have been, I would say, World War 25 in my life. And so in 2019, at the end of 2019, I started basically going through a divorce. In 2020, obviously the world shut down with this pandemic. My business shut down. A lot of factors happened because like my divorce started basically in February. It didn't get started until July because the courts were shut down. And even when the courts were reopened, we couldn't go to court. It was just like letters back and forth. It was probably the most gruesome 3 years of my life. Just to get some vulnerability, I was attacked for child abuse. I had my daughter's custody taken away from me. There was money being taken from my business. I had to shut my business down. Clients were canceling their memberships. The whole world's basically crashing down around me. And I spent the last, between middle of 2020 all the way through the end of 21 and even into the middle of 22 in survival mode, trying to regrow my business, trying to find who I am in the midst of all this, right? Like, didn't even realize, like, cool, I went through a divorce. I had to go right to survival. Like, I couldn't, like, even take a breath of what happened. And so so recently when you don't fix the root of the problem and you don't face yourself, your body will tell you when you need to put in the work. And I had a mental breakdown in March and April. And I went on a hiatus because I was not happy. Everything around me was falling apart. My relationship with my ex, my relationship with my daughter, my relationships with my employees. And I took a lot of time off to find myself. I went back to therapy. I started joining these support groups that have to deal with like rebuilding and a lot of I hold a lot of resentment. I hold a lot of pain internally because I didn't know who I was. I went from being this perfect family business owner, great business, into like complete chaos and couldn't swim, and it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. And I've never healed from that, and people don't. What I've learned on this journey, I can't talk for anybody else, but what I've learned on this journey is, just because something is done and over with doesn't mean that you have recovered from it, right? Like my divorce was finalized, my relationship with my ex is getting better, but I still have such internal trauma from that. And you don't realize how much that weighs you down from progressing in your life. And this is the realm of getting rid of toxic relationships, looking at the people that I'm surrounding myself with, the environments I put myself in, because I could have went drinking. I could have gone down this rabbit hole of drinking and drugs and all this other stuff to hide from my reality. But instead I went to face my reality because no matter where I go, I'm going to be there, and so whether if it was now or later, I had to do that. And honestly, I don't think I've ever grown more than I have in the last 10, 11 months than I have in my whole life, because I'm facing now traumas from my childhood, from my family, from things I experienced in school and high school, right out of high school. I mean, it's like you start to unpeel that onion and the layers get ugly, Yeah. And I think that that's been probably the best thing that I've ever done for myself over and above fitness, because I use fitness as a tool to get my energy out. The harder work that I've done is facing myself and looking at the disgusting things I've done and said over the years, the things that were said and done to me, when you're put in a position like that, because no divorce is great. Divorce is ugly. I don't condone divorce. I'm like, oh, everybody should get a divorce. No, I'm a preservation of marriage because I think marriage is something special. But realizing when something's broken, it just, you need to lick your wounds and being able to heal from that. And that's what I've been on these last, basically 10 months of, just basically finding myself and who I am as a person, who is Adam Berezowski outside of Epic and my business, and finding that identity again, because I completely lost that.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Coming back to finding yourself. So in finding that and in kind of coming out of survival mode, you're using therapy, support groups, you're working with by surrounding yourself with more positive people. What would your advice be to somebody who is realizing that they've been in survival mode a long time and they want to take one positive step today on their healing journey? What would be your advice for them?
I would say, therapy is expensive. Not everybody can afford a therapist or have a good access to a great therapist. Find somebody in a network or your network that is on a healing journey and latch onto them. Like, my surrounding of people now are people that are on a healing journey, right? They're not partying. They're not doing all this stuff to hide from themselves and hide from their reality. And that's free, right? I'm part of a bunch of support groups that are out there. That's free as well. Find a support group, figure out the things that you want to work on and you want to face within your life. And there's a support group out there for that. I mean, there's a ton of things out there that people can have access to. And that was probably one of the best things that I did, was over and above therapy, because I've actually grown more in my support group than I did in therapy, and finding a like-minded people that want to be better and want to not live the same way that they have been. And it takes, I'm 38, so I have 38 years of damage, right? And it's not going to take 3, 6, 10, 12 months or even 10, 12 years to fix, but I'm definitely never going backwards. I'll tell you that much. But now if you look at my core group of people, we're kind of all on that same path.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you've talked a little bit about finding yourself, right? And your true self. And you mentioned a little bit also like that we wear masks sometimes, or that we're masking pain. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about as you try to become as you're trying to become epic and uncover who you really are, just that journey and figuring yourself out.
Yeah, it's been really difficult in my position because I come to a place where people look up to me. I'm super hyperactive. I'm like the hugger. I hug every single one of our clients that come in here. And then when I go home, I've spent a lot of nights alone by myself and like sitting in my own pain. And I think that was one of the bigger eye-opening things of like finding who I am, is being able to like sit in my own pain, because like we do things, we keep busy, work, friends, there's 1,000 different ways to hide from yourself. Right. But then it's like literally just sitting in a quiet room and, being with yourself and feeling that pain. And it's funny because like my therapist, we talk about that a lot. He goes, you just need to sit in your pain. Like when I'm in I guess a fight or flight mode. He goes, you just need to sit and feel it. Right. Instead of like run. And because I mask my pain from exercise. I run a lot. I do a lot of long distance stuff because I like that physical, I guess, suffrage, I'll say, sure, to kind of hide from myself. So it is a mask that I do wear. But being on this journey, I've been able to sit with myself. And I would say one of my favorite tools that I've given myself, which I don't do a lot for myself, is I converted a tiny school bus into a tiny home that I use part-time. And I literally drive to the beach. I park it. I don't use technology. I don't listen to music. I just open the doors and I listen to music, or I listen to the nature, the beach, the noises, and I just sit with myself. And it's like been some of the most calming. And I'm like total ADHD, need to be doing 1,000 things at once. And I just sit there, and I sit there for like 7-8 hours a day. Like, it's wild that I can even sit there that long, and find that place of peace within myself, within like the chaos of my brain.
I love it. Thank you for sharing all that. If you are on a journey, of a healing journey and a journey of becoming epic, please subscribe and share this with somebody else who's also on the journey. This has been Adam Berezowski and Becoming Epic.